Thank you. Such a lovely, generous introduction. I never thought I'd be a business owner either. And here we are. We own many businesses now. We owned a dive shop for about 8 years, Florida Freedivers in North Palm Beach. And we own a mobile home park with RV sites. We owned and sold an ice machine company. And then the CEO Kit is kind of like our passion project. So we're really happy to be able to teach these kids some of the things that we wished we had learned when we were younger. I've been told I don't know how to beat around the bush and that I'm pretty direct. So my best friends usually tend to be the ones who are really in touch with their feelings because it's a good balance and they help ask really thought-provoking questions and stuff like that. I enjoy accomplishing. I like checking off boxes and to-do lists. Sometimes I add things to the list just so I can check it off. I love serving, and I don't love being the center of attention. So if I just focus on these speaking opportunities as an opportunity to serve you, I feel like semi-comfortable up here because I don't, even since childhood, I like play guitar and sing. They would stick me on a stage and I would just be so nervous. I'm always nervous in front of people, but I do love serving. So my promise to you today is to serve you, and I hope that you walk away with something valuable because I know as moms, your time is really valuable. I want to give you something practical and potentially even life-changing if you'll let it be. Something that's helped both our businesses and our families, and I believe it can help yours too. In the heart of making the most of every moment, I want to make a promise to you. By the end of our time together, you're going to have a simple framework to make decisions in your home with more clarity, less stress, and a lot more intention. You won't have to be second guessing every yes and no anymore because your values will help you decide. My husband and I have spent way too much money, thousands of dollars, learning how to build businesses with vision, strategy, and core values. And then one day it hit me. The most important organization I'll ever lead isn't out there, it's in the walls. Yes, exactly, in the walls of our homes. This photo hangs in my office. Because if I'm honest, it's always been easier for me to step into the role of business owner while challenging than it has been to step into the role of mom. I grew up with a working mom. I was an only child, so I never saw my mom get to mother other children. So I didn't think about the mom that I wanted to become. That was just, I didn't dream about the wedding. I didn't think about any of those things. I just was like, I don't know what I was thinking about. But I wasn't thinking about those things, the mom I wanted to become. And this sign in my office reminds me every day of what actually matters most, because the most important thing we'll ever do isn't out there, it's right here in our homes. A dear friend of mine is a mom to 11 children, and she really impacted me when she told me that we're supposed to be Jesus to the people within the walls of our home first, and then we can go out into the world and share Jesus with others. It emphasized to me that I actually had it all backwards and upside down because I thought it mattered more what my kids acted like out in public than it mattered how they treated their brother. I'm a mom to 3 boys, so it's always chaotic, and the competitiveness and just the races all the time for everything, can end up in tension. But if it's true that the most important and valuable work that we will ever do is within the walls of our home, then we have to start being just as intentional with our homes as we are with everything else. I'm currently going through my MBA program back at PBA, and in my digital management of digital information systems class that I'm in right now, the textbook defined culture as the fundamental set of assumptions, values, and ways of doing things that has been accepted by most members of the organization. And whether we realize it or not, your home has a culture. The question isn't if your family has one, the question is whether it's built on purpose. You guys do all have worksheets in front of you as well. We'll go through those together. Feel free to also treat them kind of as scrap paper if you want to take notes or anything, because at the end I'm going to have a QR code and I can actually email you that file. My lovely assistant Ashley over there, who likes attention a lot, she set it up on a nice little email where we'll email you the slides and the worksheet and all that stuff. So feel free to mark that up because you can get a new fresh one at home. Okay, great. Correct slide. So, yes, the question isn't if your family has a culture. The question is whether it's built on purpose. God didn't just give us children to manage. He entrusted us with hearts to shape and a home to steward. Today, we'll talk about 3 ways we help shape the culture of our homes. Your family's culture is not built by what you say once. It's built by what you consistently prioritize, what you allow, and what you model. What we prioritize ends up becoming what defines us. What we allow through the decisions we make helps shape the homes and our children just as much as what we teach them. How much we might fill our schedules, the influences we allow, the friendships we choose, the media we put boundaries on or lack thereof, and the commitments we make. And what we model with our actions. Our kids will follow what we do far more than what we say. If we say health is a top priority for us and we want to make it for them too, but we never go to the gym, they'll likely fall into the same habits we're modeling for them. If we say Jesus is a top priority, and then we should be reading our Bibles and they should be seeing us do that. Going to the Lord in prayer and gathering with the church. My husband likes to say more is caught than taught, and that's so true. How often do your kids do something that's less than desirable and you think, where did they get that from? Odds are there's a 50-50 chance that it's from you. And it's not, if it's not from you, it's probably from their other parent or a grandparent. If you don't define the culture of your home, the world will do it for you. And if we're not careful, the culture of our home becomes saying yes to anything that has an open calendar slot, and in turn, we end up busy, tired, and tired of being busy. Can anyone relate? Yes, me too. A full calendar does not mean a full life. Let's see if this is going to work. Nope. Slide 5. Oh, I can see it back there. Okay, that's really helpful. A full calendar does not mean a full life. Sometimes it just means we forgot to decide what actually matters. Being busy with all of the good or right things can easily lead us into decision fatigue. If anyone is guilty of this, it's me. I naturally have a hard time saying no, and I'm a recovering people pleaser. Any other people pleasers? If you raise your hand, you're probably a people pleaser. It's like another good sign. Corrie ten Boom impactfully said, if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. Yeah, I had the same reaction. It's a punch to the gut. It was a light bulb moment for me when I realized that I am the gatekeeper of our home. I imagine myself as a literal gate, a level of protection and safety for my kids to the outside world. We all as moms are the gatekeepers of our homes. Every activity, attitude, influence, person, and priority eventually passes through our gate. As moms, we need to remember that a full calendar doesn't mean a full life. I actually had to take a minute to really process this newfound part of my identity as a gatekeeper. It's a little heavy if you think about it. It's a lot of responsibility. And if you weren't protected as a child, I see you. I think that's why it can feel heavy and like a big responsibility, because you know that it really is a big deal to be that level of protection for them. So let us not become weary or heavy laden with this responsibility on our shoulders. Thankfully, Jesus tells us that if we follow him, if we become his disciples, our burdens will be light and his yoke will be easy. It's a really old farmer way of saying that if we align ourselves with his habits and lifestyle, then we can receive rest too. The gift of motherhood shouldn't be a burden. It's a joy. We just need the right tools and the wisdom to find the joy in it. So we need some tools to help us find clarity, purpose, and the joy that we're looking for, which is why the culture of our home is so important. And businesses spend an enormous amount of time defining their culture, core values, mission, vision. So I have a little quick activity. Let's see if some of you can identify the core values of these businesses. If you can, it means they've done a good job figuring it out. So the first one, what do you think when you see that?
Just do it.
Just do it, right? So that communicates discipline. It communicates winning, performance, perseverance. When stuff is hard, just do it. Don't think about it, just do it. Keep going. And the next one we all love?
My pleasure.
My pleasure. Yeah, which communicates hospitality, right? There's like joy in serving, kindness. And the next one, this is a logo I really like. My background is in graphic design. What do you think when you see this logo?
Same day.
Yeah, same day, right to your door. It communicates efficiency, speed, customer service. Returns are not a headache. And in their logo, you'll never see this logo the same. One of their taglines at the beginning was everything from A to Z. So it makes us smile, but it's going from A to Z, everything from A to Z. You can find on Amazon. I know, I like it. I like it when logos are clever. If we can recognize a company's values, shouldn't we be able to recognize the culture and values of our own home? So what if our families did the same thing? What if we became clear on our family's unique mission and core values? So this is the part I was talking about earlier. This is where clarity starts. When your family values are clear, you don't have to rethink, ponder, evaluate, make a pros and cons list for every decision. The filter has already been built. The decisions have already been made. Core values don't just tell us what to say yes to, they make it easier to say no. So, for instance, if you had a core value of family first, you would make decisions to protect your family dinners. If you had a core value of faith, you would make decisions that would prioritize the rhythms throughout your week. Let me let you in on a little secret for those people pleasers. I didn't know about it for way too long, that no is a full sentence. It's okay to say no to things, even if they're really good things, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. When you've already decided your core values, then the no answer feels like freedom, not guilt-ridden pressure. So here's a practical takeaway I promised you at the beginning. We know that strong families don't happen by accident. They happen by intention and purpose. So I'm going to walk you through a little mini business session. This is the part that we've been through multiple times with our businesses that we used to have to pay lots of money for, but now that we've done it so many times, it becomes like a rhythm that we really enjoy. We did do this with our women's home group recently, and I really loved it. And because we're like a smaller group, I'm gonna run it the same way I did with them and have you guys like do it on the fly with us and get you talking, because I feel like that's a really practical way to learn it. I also want to add to the caveat that it's okay if your family's in a hard place right now. And it's okay if you have really young children and you don't understand yet quite how to apply all of this. I want to encourage you that if you sit down with your spouse or whoever is like closest to you, helping run your family, helping teach your kids, that if you do this now, even if it's not perfect, it will give you clarity that you didn't have before. We're going to be practicing these core values from a book that Gino Wickman wrote. It's called the EOS Process. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. The first step of that is the brain dump. So what you're going to do is write down core values that just pop into your head that you think that your family is. I know it can be difficult, but also take peace in knowing that your family doesn't have to be every core value. When we did it with our home church, it was really beautiful to see what the different women wrote for their core values, because while so many of the women wrote different words, you could so clearly see that that was like a perfect, beautiful picture of what God had created their family to be, and sort of like the puzzle piece that they fit in their community by those different core values that they had from each other. Core values are not the person you hope to become. They describe who you already are at your best. So one of my good friends, Tiffany, her husband's a pharmacist. She's a stay-at-home mom. She used the example, we would not write adventure for our family. We have other friends who are super adventurous, but she's like, that's just not who we are, and that's okay. So I want you guys to be okay with just writing who you are. A value should be something where your kids would say, yeah, that's our family. So I'm going to give you like a minute, and you can write down your brain dump core values, anything that pops into your head, no bad idea. I have some ideas to get you rolling if you need that. Don't overthink it. Most people might end up with like 10 to 20 words. So just to give you an idea too, or a bigger picture view, I want you to take this home and end up doing it with your family. So you're only getting probably half of the picture. I write down things that my husband could like not even think about, and vice versa. So it's good to do it with your better half. Usually when we're doing it together, we would spend 5 to 10 minutes, and we might end up with like 40 words, just to give you an idea of the process. The second step is to do keep, cut, combine. Whoops, it's actually kill. But we are ladies, and we don't kill things, so we cut them, you know? In the EOS process, it's kill, which is why it still says that on the slide. But yeah, so you keep, kill, combine. When you have 40 words and you're doing this with someone else, in round 1 of keep, cut, combine, if anyone says, I like that one, I want to keep it, you just skip to the next word and you don't ask any questions. So it's kind of like the veto on the first round. The second round, however, you would go back through the list again, and if you want to keep it, but they don't want to keep it, that is where you can have an open discussion. So you go through like a quick elimination, and then the second time you'll talk about it to continue to narrow it down. At this point, you would want, by the time you're through the second round of keep, cut, combine, you would want to have like maybe 10 words by that point. So if you guys want to go through your list, and then the combine part is if some are similar, you'll just put them on the same line. So if one is like joy and one is happiness, then you can choose joy/happiness right now, or you could just scratch one out, like whichever one you don't like. But feel free to combine, to keep, or to just cross them off. It's not just pie in the sky values that realistically you'll never be. These are things that you are when you're at your best. All right, so the third step is to decide your top 3 to 5 values. So you can circle those if you want, since you probably have like a whole list going. So you're gonna narrow it down to 3 to 5 values. Core values are the values you would protect, even if they cost you something. So you're gonna end up with 3 to 5, and then you would end up, like bonus points, cherry on top, you would end up turning them into statements. So instead of just adventure, you would we choose venture over comfort. Or instead of just kindness, you might say, we treat people with kindness and respect. Or if curiosity is one of them, you might say, we are curious, always learning. So turning them into statements helps you be able to use them in your everyday language, with your spouse, with your kids. You can use it as you're training your kids or disciplining your kids or reminding them of who they are by turning them into statements. And when you turn them into statements, that's when they also are able to become the decision filters for your family. So I'll tell you a little story while you kind of continue working on that. We recently had hired a private tutor because we homeschool our kids and we get the scholarship, which is amazing. So we hired a tutor to come into our home, and she was a little expensive. And we tried it for a semester, and then we just started feeling like, I think this is not really what we thought it would be. And I think as a mom, you can relate when you start to feel that feeling like this is not quite it, right? And oftentimes we just keep going. We just keep rushing. We just keep moving. We just keep planning the next thing or getting to the next nap or whatever it is. But instead, we were able to use our core values to dream a little and to refocus on what matters to our family in particular. And because we have a background in freediving, and I don't remember if I said that we own Florida, I said that, okay. So yeah, we love freediving, we love spearfishing, we love providing for our family in that way, going home, catching dinner, coming home, cooking it. Like those are super cool life skills that we want our sons to learn. But we've sort of been waiting on some of that because they're 10, almost 11, 8, and 4. So you can't like go free dive and spearfish when you're 4 really, you know. But we were faced with this decision of, do we fire the tutor? That's an uncomfortable conversation, right? I'm the people pleaser. I don't want to have to tell her, I'm sorry, we can no longer provide financially for you regularly because we've changed our minds, right? But in reality, when we used our core values, the decision became really easy because our core values, Atlas, what are our core values? Hold on, we can't hear you.
Honorable, intentional, curious, brave, kind.
Yes, our core values are honorable, intentional, curious, brave, and kind. And we realized that with the tutor, they really weren't getting much of those things. So instead, we decided to get a boat membership. Because if we got a boat membership, we could go out on the boat. We could teach them to free dive. We could teach them to spearfish. And that would teach them bravery. That would teach them curiosity about God's nature and the world around them. That would teach them kindness and how to treat nature with respect. It would teach them how to be honorable and how they spearfish, I guess. Like the ethically sourcing of food and things like that is an honorable way to do it. So when we ran it through our decision filter of our core values, the decision became very easy. And I no longer walked into that conversation with our tutor feeling heavy and guilt for having to fire her sooner than I thought I would have to, you know? And I could walk into that conversation confidently, because I knew that it was the right decision for our family, and I felt peace about it because our core values functioned as the decision filter. The decision really was already made. We just hadn't stopped and thought about it. So you can use these core values in the same way. And this is why I really do believe it can be life-changing if you let it. If you come up with these core values and you decide to use them or post them in your house like we have them, then when things feel frantic or chaotic, they can help to kind of center you back to what you've already decided is important. So the last step, once you've decided your 3 to 5 core values, is to step back and think, do these core values really reflect our family? They're not the person that we just hope to become, but they describe who we already are at our best. A value should be something where your kids say, yeah, that's our family. That defines our family. That looks like us. So this is the big takeaway. Think about a decision you've been going back and forth on. There's always one, right? As moms, we're always thinking, what could I do differently? Maybe it's a nap schedule. Maybe it's a friend you are torn about hanging out with or not. Whatever it is for you, think about a decision that you've been torn on. Something that keeps coming up and something that might even feel heavy. And then run it through the values that you've come up with. Does it align with who your family is or who you're trying to become? Would anyone like to share? Does anyone have any like aha moments right now? It's okay if you don't. Yes?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I'm like thinking about joy, and I'm trying to teach my kids that joy can sometimes be a choice. So I'm like, are we joyful? Not all the time, but I want us
Sure.
to be joyful. So is that not
Sure.
a good core value because my kids are not always joyful, or?
No, I think it's an excellent core value. And I think if it is a core value for you and your spouse and your family that you've decided on, now you can use that when you instruct them. And you can focus on it, and you can get verses with it, you can have sayings with it. So if I am talking to my son, and I would say, in this situation, are you choosing joy or are you choosing to complain? Most of the time, if I'm asking that question, it's because they're choosing to complain, you know? And so then, rightly so, they'll likely say, I'm complaining. And I say, okay, do we complain or do we choose joy? How can we choose joy in this situation? Yeah. How can we step out of complaining and the negativity? Usually with kids, I don't know how old your kids are, but usually with kids, I have found, and maybe it's because I have boys, but that it's best to keep it simple and to keep the questions short and to keep the instructions short and then to say the same exact thing over and over and over again, which actually makes it easier on you. So when you come up with like, as a family, what's your last name? Fiella. Did I say it right? Okay. So our last name is Dickinson. So I would, and one of ours is honorable. And I will add too, some of our core values we've chosen because in our generations, like generationally, you don't see this in our tree, in our line. And so we're changing that as parents. So you could say, you're a Fiella and you choose joy, right? And they'll be like, yeah, mommy. And I'll be like, okay, go now and choose joy. And they'll be like, okay. So that's what I do with my sons. I'll say, you're a Dickinson, you are honorable. I want you to choose honor in this situation. How do you do that? So sometimes it requires a little defining what some of these things are or examples of how to choose joy or how to be honorable. But I think that's an excellent core value. I don't know why I'm getting like emotional about this, but I love it. It's great. Yeah.
I just want to add something about it. So one of the things I figured out, like, kids and humans, we also need to be validated. Mirroring does a lot. So, like, I try to acknowledge my kids' feelings because what the dysfunction for me was that I found out that anything that wasn't happy or good, like, it was bad, like, it was sinful. Like, and so as I became a Christian, like, it's sinful to be angry, it's sinful to be sad, it's sinful to feel any quote unquote negative emotion. But it depends. Like, she's talking about boys and girls. I have a mix. So it's like my son. You're right. Like, the keeping it short is better. Like, in the heat of the moment, he can't process anything.
Right.
I'm a verbal processor, so I've verbally like attacked him. But like with my daughter, if I tell her like, I understand you feel this way, and then like acknowledge their feelings, sympathize, but then you go back to the core value. But this is what we're gonna do.
Right.
Because it's okay to be mad, it's okay to be sad, but let's choose our action to be whatever.
Right, exactly. Like acknowledging where you're at and then taking responsibility for how you respond. Yeah, I love that. That's great. Any other questions or thoughts while we're paused? Yeah.
I would like to say something. This was brought to my attention back sometime a few weeks ago. Happiness depends on your outward circumstances. Joy depends on something inward, and that's Jesus.
Not dependent on your circumstance.
That's what your joy, that you have the deepest. So if the circumstances are falling apart around you,
Yeah.
then you've got that joy in your heart. And sometimes maybe children don't understand that. But I think as our role as parents, we should try to help them to understand that this joy actually comes from Jesus.
Amen.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't, maybe
From
they have
within.
problems with their playmate or school, grades at school or whatever. They can overcome that. It may take a while. You have to understand that.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's a great way to define joy Because I think a lot of times the world tries to hijack words and like make them into something that they're not. So if we can come back to the Bible and what the Bible says joy is, then we can help teach that to our kids and children too, to help define it for them so they can learn the differences. And I think too, along with all of these things, we're teaching our kids to renew their minds. So I think that's kind of, I'm sorry, what's your name? Anna. What Anna was talking about, like you might feel anger right now, but we're going to choose to renew our minds through Scripture and through the Bible. And so while you might feel complaining, we're not going to stay in that. I'm here to help you see where you're at and then help you come out of that and to renew your mind. So these core values and these statements will help equip you for how to train your children in renewing their minds in alignment with these core values. Because when everyone in your family starts emulating them, that's what's going to make up the culture of your home. Okay, so you guys have about 3 to 5 that you've chosen, right? I think, okay. So when you're using the core values as a filter, if you have a family value of adventure, then choosing between another sports season or a camping trip becomes that the camping trip wins. If the value is family first, then choosing between 3 extracurriculars or family dinners, which one wins? Family dinners, yes. So the decision isn't hard anymore. Values remove the pressure from decision because the decision was already made. You're not choosing between good and bad. You're choosing between what fits our family and what doesn't. Not everything good is right for your family. Clarity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters. Everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. So this only works if your family values are visible, if you're talking about them, if they're interwoven in the fabric of your home, in your conversation with your kids. Not just written down once, not something you think about every now and then, but something that your family sees and lives with every day. So that's why we have that sign in our home. It sits right at our dining table. So shockingly, even my 4-year-old knows our core values. He surprised us one day. We were in the car, and the boys will use them to correct each other as well. Also, your core values could be used as a weapon against you, so beware. My 10-year-old, we were at a blood draw appointment, and those little trays that rotate the blood back and forth, it was moving on the counter. So my 10-year-old goes up and he starts pressing it in the opposite directions to get it to do something else. So I was like, stop it. What are you doing? And he was like, Mom, I was just being curious. I'm like, okay, but no, curious with your mind, not with your hands. So it's great though, because they're using it, they're thinking about it, they're using it in their language. They use it on each other even sometimes. But what's important is that they're seeing it and they're thinking about it and you're seeing it and you're remembering it. And we didn't do this because we have it all figured out. We did this because we don't, and it helps us. We needed something that would bring us back to what matters. When life starts to feel full or decisions start to feel hard, we can look to this. And it makes it easier, and it gives us clarity, and it allows us to be intentional. So when something comes up, a new opportunity, a new commitment, for us sometimes it's a new business, we go through this and we use our decision filter. We can look at this and ask, does this fit who we are? And so I want to encourage you, we don't just write your values down and put them in a notebook somewhere. Put them where your family can actually see them. Because what's visible becomes memorable, and what's memorable becomes a part of your family culture. So here's the reality. If we don't intentionally build the culture of our homes, it will be built for us. Most families don't end up overwhelmed on purpose. They drift there. It just slowly happens. One yes at a time, one good opportunity at a time, until suddenly everything feels full, overwhelmed, chaotic. But the good news is you don't have to drift. God has already given you everything you need to lead your home with intention. And when you define your values, you stop reacting and you start leading your home. At the beginning, I told you that you could walk away with a way to make decisions with more clarity and less stress, and that's what the core values will give you. The goal is not a perfectly run home. The goal is a peaceful one, a joyful one. When your values are clear, you stop second-guessing everything. You stop feeling pulled in every direction, and you start building a home that actually feels the way that you want it to feel. You are the gatekeeper of your home. You're shaping the culture whether you realize it or not. So don't drift, decide. Run your home like it matters, because it does. God didn't give you your home to manage by accident. He entrusted it to you on purpose. And when your home is filled with clarity, purpose, and joy, your kids will feel it. So we're going to take a few minutes, and I want you to share your core values with your table. You guys know each other, and you will likely have the capability to encourage each other. When we did this with our home church women, there was some discouragement at our table. And so I want to encourage you to bring life to the other women in your table and to affirm them in the core values, or to help them see something that they might not see in themselves or in their family. So I want to give you a few minutes just to share, let's say like 10 minutes, and you guys can all share your core values, what you ended up with, and then you guys can just talk and give feedback to each other. All right, sorry, I'm going to interrupt all the good discussion going on. But I figured I'd just wrap us up. Don't be afraid to keep talking about this though. Reach out to each other. You guys have all now talked about it with each other, so text each other throughout the week. If you do it with your spouse, share what you guys came up with together, because it's likely different than what you came up with by yourself. So it's a good thing to do it with your spouse and get their feedback. Our statements that we came up with, we kind of combined all of them together and did it sort of like a phrase. So we have a skylight calendar. I don't know if anyone else has those, but we actually did like images, and then those rotate on our skylight calendar. So it's just one more way that the boys and ourselves can see the core values and have them at the front of our minds. So ours says, we are the Dickinsons, honoring God, living intentionally, always curious, courageously adventurous, and kind in all things. This is who we are and what we believe. Yeah, I like it too. I'll say it again. We are the Dickinsons, honoring God, living intentionally, always curious, courageously adventurous, and kind in all things. This is who we are and what we believe. And I will add too, it was Glenda mentioned it at our table, and I think everyone did. The core value of faith. We kind of decided, you can only have like 5 of these, right? You're limited on how many you can have. You want to only have 5 so that it's something that you can remember and your kids can remember. My 5-year-old or my 4-year-old can remember our 5 words, So you can only have 5. It's a hot commodity. So we kind of went with the understanding that the Bible and faith and Scripture is the foundation for all of it. It's interwoven in all of it. So I just wanted to give you guys that, option as well, if you decided to do yours similarly. So if you want to take this further at home, Ashley put everything together for you. It's the worksheet, the slides from today, a few next steps to help you walk this out with your family. You can just scan the barcode to grab it. We are working on a speaker page. So if you guys, I would love to hear your feedback. What stood out from you today? What you really loved? If you have any like feedback that you want to give me too, I would love to hear it. I read all of the emails that come in.
Oh, send it by, you want it by email?
Yeah, so when you scan the link, you'll put in your email so that we can email you the worksheet and the slides, and then you can just click reply. Because I would love to know how this goes for you guys and what you think about it.